Well, speaking of paying players and whatnot, short clip here from Jimbo Fisher, who was on the Paul Feinbaum show. I thought he said it perfectly. He's kind of joking, but not really. And here's Jimbo's interpretation of what the heck's going on now with the NIL and all the deals behind the scenes.
Coach, I know all you can do is go out there and try to get the best players you can, but today you may not be even following it, but the national narrative is about the other things. One of the top players in the country was committed to your former school. He was flipped to Jackson State. And a lot of critics of the game are in shock today watching some of the things and hearing some of the things. As somebody who's played the game and coached it at the highest level, where are we right now in college football?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a practice. Now, you can't promise things. You can't say, I'm going to get you an NIL deal, and that's illegal. I mean, all you can do is present what other players in your university have done in the past. That is all you're allowed to do. But, I mean, it's like there was a lot of NIL deals going on before all this was going on. They just weren't legal. No one told nobody. I mean, all that stuff in college. Now, we're part of it, but at the same time, that's where you're at in today's time. At least it makes it out there, and it is legal, and the guys can get compensated. But I think it's enticing in recruiting. I think it's very dangerous in that way. But I mean, you got to enforce the rules when they're broken. You got to handle that part of it. But I think it's here to stay. Now, how they modify it, if they do in the future, whatever they do, but it's part of what we do, just like the transfer portal is.
All right, Shane. So I mean, hey, he's saying it like it is, man. These deals were already kind of in the works, and now they're just publicized and they're legal and they're paying taxes on it. And I really do think that if you're not ahead of it, then you're going to get left behind. And that's why you see Dabo and all these people getting upset about it. And last time I checked, Clemson just had their worst season in a decade there. And they're not reeling in all these recruits. Hey, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not. But I really think it's really on these coaches to adapt, because they ain't changing these rules now that they've kind of opened up the piggy bank, so to speak. You know what?
Dude, it makes you wonder. I'm not accusing anybody, but we all know it existed. We all make the jokes about the bag men and the families, the cars down there, the Chargers down in Tuscaloosa. There was all these rumors, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and that was going on. And maybe universities at Clemson were good at hiding it, but maybe now you could just with the net when you got these NIL deals. I mean, there's no hiding it. How much money do you need? Okay, how much was this kid offered over here? We can do better with this car dealership here. This is what we're going to do for you. So it's almost like new age technology. The first ones that were able to capitalize to the internet made all these billions of dollars. Right. Same thing's going to happen with these universities. Who can handle this the best? Because it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new department, like you said. Government's involved now because we're going to have taxes. We're going to have different things. But I like that it's out there. This is a free agency market. This is, you're paying for players. But we were doing it already. And to act like we weren't, well, you're blind, man. I mean, this shit was happening back in the 60s, okay? So don't act like all of a sudden we just started paying these guys. We're just up front with it. And what I like about it is there's a lot of people on these teams, like when you look at Tennessee as an example, all the offensive linemen are making $50,000, not just one or two of them. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is good for those athletes because they're going to benefit. And Mike, let me get off. I'm going to get off this box here in a second. But one of the things that I'm starting to notice from these NIL deals is that it's going to keep players on the teams. That's one thing you didn't think about. Not just recruiting them there, but you're seeing some of these upperclassmen that if they can make the money that they would make in a later draft, that they're sticking around with that university. I mean, this is a good thing too, man. I think it's just capitalizing it, understanding it. The schools that do that first, the ones that can pony up, the ones that's got the bank to do it, they're gonna create juggernauts. But let's face it, these kids make those guys a lot of money on Saturdays.
Yeah, and I think that you hit on an important aspect of this whole thing, Shane, that I think people are overlooking, because just look at the SEC, Arkansas and Ole Miss. Those are two that really jump out to me that had more returning seniors, super seniors, if you will, than anybody in the SEC. And I don't think it's any coincidence that those teams had strong leadership, had strong seasons on the field, whereas, in a normal year, those teams are really going to struggle against an Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, the teams that we all perceive as getting all the best players. Now,
right,
that may still be happening, and I don't really know a way around that. I mean, you gotta recruit better, I guess. You gotta perform better. But this gives, and I'm not trying to disrespect Ole Miss and Arkansas when I say this, but you gotta give the little guy an advantage, because Alabama and Georgia and some of these teams, they're not going to have elite players stick around for 4, 5 years or 6 years. And I think we saw a little bit on the field this year, Shane, and I think that's an advantage to some of the other teams that are just not reeling in all these 5-star talent players.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, man. You got a 2-star, and I'm just using this example. It comes in as a freshman. He's not impressive, but he works on it. He's there. He's got the nutritionist. He's got the gym. He's got, all these people working him out, getting him bigger, putting more on his frame and stuff. And that 2-star becomes very competitive in his 4th and 5th and possibly even his 6th year. And he's different than a 4-star that walks in right there out of high school. So I think the competitive depth is going to pay dividends. These kids are, yes, they got a free school. That's the argument. These guys got a free scholarship, blah, blah, blah. But now they've got actual money coming in. And the name, image, likeness, that's so big for these kids, because some of them aren't going to make it in the NFL, Mike.
Right.
But if they can get their face out there and the fans love them, and who knows, they may find jobs in that community or that city or even on that staff in the future, So I just think it is a good thing. There are some bad things. I think this whole Deion Sanders thing, I think that was an absolute joke, and I think it's terrible for the kid. But I think that for every bad story, there's going to be 10 successful stories coming out of this thing.
Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, Shane, where Jimbo's out here saying, hey, we were paying him all along. We got Lane Kiffin on the other hand. Oh, my God. Why are you having such a rough year in recruiting, Shane? Well, let's read between the lines here. Let's kick it over to what Lane Kiffin had to say here on the early signing.
You saw probably, arguably, the biggest flip upset in the history of recruiting today, with the number 1 player in the country going to an FCS school. What are your thoughts on the arena that you guys are operating in now with the NIL stuff?
I said it yesterday. I mean, you're in free agency, that there are no contracts. So, I really hope for these kids, they get all the money that they're being promised at all these schools when they get there, because there's a lot of money being promised. So I hope for them that they get it, because it is unique. These guys get promised all this money to come places, but they don't have a contract, which free agency, obviously you would in the NFL, know that you were guaranteed to get paid what you're being told you're going to get paid.
All right, Shade. So, hey, I don't know about you, but this certainly reads like Lane Kiffin is saying, well, we got outbid. That's why we're, towards the back end of the SEC recruiting rankings, and we just had a hell of a season. But, I think what he's really upset with, the frustrations there, Shane, is, it wasn't that long ago, Hugh Freeze and company were paying players. Now, they were doing it completely illegally, and I have to imagine that the Ole Miss and their athletic department, they're walking on eggshells right now, not wanting to create a wave, making sure that everything they're doing, they're crossing their I's and dotting their or crossing their T's and dotting their I's, because I don't know what the laws are in the state of Mississippi, but maybe you can't throw out these crazy NIL deals. I don't know, but either that or Ole Miss boosters aren't ponying up, one way or another. And Lane Kiffin, he seems like he's pretty upset about it, don't you think?
Well, and that's what it is, man. When you're losing recruits because of money, it feels sour. It feels like Kiffin thought he had a few on the hook and lost it, right. and probably lost it because of money. This is, like I said, it's a new age, man. We got these assistant coaches and coordinators and things like that, but you need freaking salesmen on that team too, because they are going out there and getting these kids these deals, or promising, telling them, have it ready. You gotta. It's a pitch, man. It's a sales pitch when you go in that. It's not like Coach Dye going in there saying, you know what, I want to play at Auburn. It's not like our grandfathers or even what we grew up to. These kids are what's in it for me because they're all connected. All these kids are connected in 10 to 15 different social media outlets that they're using these days. There's no more secrets. Everybody knows. How much did you get offered? I want that. I deserve that. I'm the best in this county. I deserve that. So it's going to be that moving forward. And like I said, those teams that figure it out, the teams that you're going to see it right now. I guarantee you, if you pause this podcast and you turn it back on here in 6 years, there's going to be some teams that have never been in the top 20 that are going to consistently be there. Those are going to be the programs that took this NIL serious. This is the ones that got the money. These kids do not care about stadium renovations, Mike. They don't. They want money in their banks. Their parents want money in their banks, and it's a new culture, and we've got to create this. It is this way. It's not changing anytime soon. So the ones that grab it by the balls, those are going to be the ones that are winning national championships here in about 8-10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head, and it's kind of the Wild West out here, but that's kind of you're getting things you never expected, and that's kind of the fun of it all to me. You know what?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, Alabama's got some great boosters, but the reason that they got more money today is because they're winning national championships or competing for them every single year. Well, winning causes more money to come in. So that's what people are going to do. It's not about paying the coaches anymore, Mike. I mean, Lane Kiffin got him an extension down there. It's not about him. It's about who he can get onto that campus. So I get it. He's upset. But there's going to be some days, if he does get it right, that Ole Miss is going to load up and they're going to be successful. But you're just not going to woo a kid over just because of your personality or the way you play offense or who you got in the league anymore. It's what's in it for me.
Right.
It's a selfish generation, Mike.